Diddy, you know Diddy?
Diddy,
one of my best friends,
okay.
right? Okay. When you want to be a Kappa, you want to be Kappa, you want to be Alpha, whatever the fuck it is, okay? We're gonna haze you and haze you and haze you until you are a Kappa. That's what happened. People sold their souls to Diddy. And then they're mad now because the hazing process was a little bit rougher than they thought.
Orlando Brown just set the courtroom on fire, and he's not backing down. Secret tapes, hazing rituals, hallway codes, and now Diddy's empire could collapse under federal scrutiny. This isn't just gossip, it's federal evidence. Orlando Brown was once the face of Disney Channel's That's So Raven, a star whose name was synonymous with quirky humor and teen fame in the early 2000s. His wild energy and comedic charm made him a fan favorite, loved by millions. But beneath that youthful success lay a darker story. Orlando's journey to stardom wasn't just marked by television success, it was filled with controversies, wild behavior, and legal trouble. His rise and fall seemed to happen faster than anyone could track. But what if it wasn't just his own actions at play? As Orlando's career took unexpected twists, there was one name that kept resurfacing: Diddy. For a long time, the relationship between the music mogul and the actor remained shrouded in mystery. It wasn't clear why their paths had crossed or how deep their connection really went. What started as a potential business relationship or mutual admiration seemed to unravel into something far darker. A friendship turned sour, leading Orlando to become entangled in a mess of secrets, manipulative rituals, and eventually an investigation that no one could have anticipated. But this isn't just about Orlando's personal issues. This is about the silent threads that linked his chaotic rise to the empire Diddy built, a web that's now unraveling in front of the world. It's a scandal that's shaking Hollywood to its core, revealing truths that no one saw coming. So how did a former Disney star find himself caught in the storm of one of the music industry's biggest figures? And why is Orlando now making headlines again? Not for his acting, but for a jaw-dropping federal case against Diddy. Stay tuned as we dig deep into this explosive scandal and uncover the details you won't find anywhere else.
He's trying to kill me. You know, Diddy and Jay-Z, Auntie Sean and Auntie Yolanda. No matter how many contracts you try to take out on my life, no matter how many times you try to threaten my family or threaten people to stay away from me, no matter how many things you try to do to me and how many things you've tried to do to me, it ain't working! Don't play with somebody that you know got the drop on.
Orlando Brown's legal team has claimed that the audio recordings in question were made using a secondary phone, one that was kept in airplane mode for most of the time. Brown would briefly turn it on just to capture his thoughts, details that might seem insignificant but could hold the key to unraveling the mystery. According to his defense, these recordings track everything from the guest wing's activity to late night staff movements and even hallway traffic. Federal investigators, however, have uncovered something even more damning. The audio files, they say, are packed with metadata that aligns perfectly with logs from wireless routers they had access to. And here's where things get even more chilling. A sealed affidavit, now partially revealed to the public, confirms that Brown's phone identifier shows up in restricted areas at the exact times he said he was there. This corroborates other pieces of hard evidence, like digital spreadsheets from former security head Roger Bonds and logs from the smart lighting system that reveal lights being manually turned off at odd hours during the night. This isn't just hearsay or vague recollections. Brown's own phone, along with other digital evidence, is painting a much clearer picture, one that's far from favorable. And now, the pieces are falling into place, connecting dots no one expected to find.
Been working for Orlando Brown
to play crazy.
The Oosh-Goth bourgeois shit. Orlando's brilliant. Imagine what it's been like to wear this character for this long.
Is he speaking truth?
Of course.
Orlando Brown's voice memos didn't just capture his own thoughts. He somehow managed to intercept security radio chatter as well. One phrase in particular stood out: heartbeat reset. According to investigators, this code allegedly signals that doors were being cycled and cameras were temporarily dim. But Brown's defense team isn't buying any of it. They've brushed it off as a harmless term, claiming that Brown is simply trying to score points in a completely unrelated Nevada firearm case. Despite these claims, there's more at play here than just legal wrangling. Brown, still under a cooperation deal, could walk away with a break in that firearm case if he plays his cards right. But make no mistake, this isn't just about talking. Orlando Brown is locked into a deal that demands full transparency. He's bound to tell the truth, the whole truth, or face serious consequences. The stakes are higher than ever, and the clock is ticking.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agreed.
Orlando Brown's cooperation agreement isn't leaving him much wiggle room. It's crystal clear. If he lies, distorts, or even slightly bends the truth, his shot at leniency disappears completely. Prosecutors are leaning into that clause hard, using it to prove that Brown has every reason to be brutally honest. According to them, the stakes are so high that there's no room for games. But Brown's defense team sees it differently. They're spinning it as desperation, saying he's only cooperating to save himself from a harsher sentence in another state. Now the courtroom's heating up. Judge Aaron Suberman-Manian isn't dragging things out. He's fast-tracked a hearing to examine the chain of custody on Brown's recordings. And yes, it's official. Orlando Brown will take the stand during the second week of the prosecution's case. That's when things are expected to explode. It's a collision course. Two completely opposing narratives, both aiming to control the room. The prosecution has a slick game plan. They're lining up Brown's audio memos in exact chronological order, syncing them with internal network visuals from the property. Door sensors, motion-activated lights, hallway activity, all matched perfectly with his recorded commentary. Then they'll bring in a digital forensics expert to confirm that the recordings are untouched. No filters, no cuts, no manipulation, just raw files straight from the source. But the defense isn't rolling over. They've got their own expert, a hospitality consultant, ready to argue that turning off hallway cameras isn't unusual. In luxury estates, he'll say, it's done to protect VIP guest privacy, not to hide something sinister. They'll also try to downplay other evidence, like linen service receipts, brushing them off as totally routine for elite-level events. So now, it's not just Orlando Brown on trial, it's two versions of the same night, told by people with everything to lose. And when those tapes roll in court, the jury won't just be hearing Brown's voice. They'll be watching the moment Hollywood's darkest secrets step into the light.
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent, and what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
I got on a plane at 5:30 a.m. So this party, I think half the people there were butt naked.
While the courtroom showdown is just heating up, the ripple effects outside those walls are already shaking Hollywood's foundations. Major talent agencies aren't waiting for a verdict. They've jumped straight into rewriting their safety protocols. New mandates now include real-time guest exit tracking, crystal clear phone usage rules, and third-party safety reps embedded at events who can quietly document anything suspicious. No permission needed. Even the insurance giants are getting nervous. One of the top firms that underwrite high-profile entertainment events is rewriting its playbook. Their updated policy applications are now digging into things that were once ignored, like door lock override logs, staff-to-staff text messages, and lighting control patterns. Why? Because Orlando Brown's memos proved those tiny details might be the keys to uncovering something massive. And in a move no one saw coming, lawmakers just added Brown's name to the witness list for an upcoming legislative hearing tied to a brand new proposal, the Creative Industry Guest Safety Act. This bill aims to create anonymous hotlines so guests and workers can report misconduct at industry events without fear of retaliation. What started as a federal case is now turning into a cultural reckoning, and Brown is at the center of it. As this trial gains steam, one thing is clear: this isn't just tabloid fodder anymore. Performer advocacy groups are applauding Brown's actions, calling his secret recordings a necessary wake-up call. They're hailing him as someone who used his voice, literally, to shine a light where official systems failed. In In their words, Orlando didn't just speak up, he documented everything. Back on the legal front, Diddy, still being held in federal custody, had his legal team drop a new filing today. They're calling the government's evidence just normal operations at a luxury estate. Laundry orders, automated lighting, sensor pings. It's all part of the everyday chaos of high-end event management, they claim. But prosecutors aren't backing down. They insist those timestamps, every single one, line up too perfectly with Brown's audio memos to be coincidence. And now, with jury selection underway, things are about to get personal. Voir dire questionnaires are out, and one question stands out like a red flag. Do you recognize Orlando Brown from his TV career, and would that affect your judgment? If the answer's yes, boom, you're off the jury. No second chances. The stakes? Massive. Because if just 12 people believe Brown's recordings are authentic and that his voice captured something real, then prosecutors will have more than just a story. They'll have hard evidence that matches cold data. And that, in court, is the kind of thing that changes everything.
Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something.
Inside the courtroom, the real battle is only just beginning. While Orlando Brown's testimony has the media buzzing, the defense is shifting gears, fighting tooth and nail to keep the spotlight off Brown's messy past. Their strategy? Convince the jury that this isn't some bombshell conspiracy. It's just a case of routine estate operations getting spun out of control. But time isn't on anyone's side. The prosecution is racing to close their case shortly after Brown takes the stand. Meanwhile, the defense has kept their cards close to the chest. They haven't revealed whether Sean Diddy Combs will testify himself. With closing arguments already locked in for early next month, every minute matters. The pressure ratcheted up the moment Brown's now infamous corridor recordings entered the trial. Suddenly, this wasn't just gossip or speculation. It became a full-on forensic deep dive. The courtroom transformed into a tech lab. Leading that charge was Special Agent Lynn Rivas, the digital forensic specialist who had access to Brown's secret second phone. With laser focus, she broke it all down for the jury, explaining how her team cloned the phone's internal memory, created a digital hash, a kind of fingerprint, and verified that no files had been tampered with from extraction to examination. Not once did the hash value change. Even the defense had to concede. The chain of custody was airtight. Still, they didn't go quietly. The defense cross-examined Rivas hard, pressing her on whether the device could have been preloaded with manipulated data. But Rivas didn't flinch. She confidently told the jury that waveform scans showed zero alterations, no splices, no gaps, no sign of editing. Even the time code synced perfectly with the phone's system logs, backing up Brown's timeline to the second. Once the authenticity was confirmed, prosecutors wasted no time. They played the very first memo, time-stamped 1 a.m., from what appears to be Brown's earliest documented visit to the estate. And just like that, the trial shifted from speculation to hard digital evidence.
And when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
The tension in the courtroom was electric, like everyone was holding their breath. Then came the moment that flipped the mood entirely. The speakers crackled and the jury leaned in as Orlando Brown's voice whispered through the courtroom. North Wing, second corridor. Just a few quiet words, but enough to send chills down spines. A pause, then a faint squawk of security radio in the background, and then heartbeat reset. That was the phrase. Boom. Prosecutors didn't waste a second. They hit pause and froze the audio frame right there. Without saying a word, they flashed the screen to the jury, this time showing a wireless router log. The log told its own story. Brown's device had pinged the network exactly when he said it did. A router labeled guest AP-N2 lit up for just a moment, long enough to record a file header before the connection dropped off completely. Silent again, just like he described. What looked like a whisper whisper on tape was now matching up with digital evidence in real time. Not theory, not speculation, just cold hard metadata that didn't lie. And in that frozen moment, the courtroom wasn't just listening, they were witnessing a timeline snapping into place. And just when the courtroom thought it had heard the most explosive reveal, it got hotter. The defense tried to play it cool. Matthew Hartley, sharp-suited and smug, waved off the evidence. He claimed the phone probably just woke up for a harmless clock sync, but Agent Rivas wasn't having it. She leaned in and shut it down. The phone had no SIM card, no Wi-Fi saved, no auto sync possible. In other words, someone powered it up on purpose. Then came the boom. Prosecutors rolled out a procurement ledger already verified by the state supply coordinator, Olivia Martinez. The document showed a curious late-night entry tagged guest refresh, flagged urgent with a handwritten instruction, "Ipo use heartbeat cart." The room tensed. Martinez took the stand. Calm, clear, no hesitation. She told the jury that the heartbeat cart was a color-coded laundry trolley used exclusively in the guest wing and only for high-priority situations. The defense scrambled to shake her story, pointing out that the order was from years ago, but Olivia didn't flinch. That code was never used lightly, she said. We knew what it meant. Then it got even more surgical. Next up, Tyler Blake, the estate's lighting engineer. He brought the receipts, literally. His records showed 4 manual lighting overrides that weekend, all in the guest wing, all dimming lights for exactly 6 minutes each. Prosecutors threw it on a graph. Those lighting dips matched perfectly with Spike's and Brown's whispered memos. The defense pounced. Hartley floated the idea that maybe a photographer or stylist did it for ambiance. Blake nodded. It was technically possible, but then he added the twist. Every manual override is supposed to come with a note. These 4, no notes. Nothing, clean as a ghost. Then the room locked onto one man, Orlando Brown. He took the stand, eyes steady. Prosecutor Celia Grant didn't waste a second. "Is that your voice on those recordings?" she asked. Orlando looked straight ahead. "Yes, that's me." And just like that, the courtroom shifted. What started as a wild celebrity spiral was now a methodical, data-backed showdown, and Brown was no longer the punchline. He was the key witness. Orlando Brown took the stand and set the stage with a bombshell. He confirmed that when he checked into the estate, he handed over his primary phone as required. But what the court didn't know, he didn't stop there. He'd secretly kept a second phone hidden away, claiming that the whole situation had felt off, and he wanted to make sure he had a record of everything for himself. Enter the defense, Matthew Hartley, all sharp words and sharper suit. He came out swinging during cross-examination, trying to knock down Brown's credibility. He pointed to previous media interviews where Orlando had contradicted himself, details about how many people were present, and the exact time events wrapped up. Each version seemed to shift. Hartley's goal was clear. He wanted the jury to see inconsistency, and to some, it looked like Brown's story was starting to crumble under the pressure. But Orlando Brown wasn't backing down. He hit back hard, reminding the court that the media interviews Hartley referenced were nothing more than casual conversations, not sworn testimony. His voice memos, on the other hand, were the real deal, captured in real time, backed by timestamps, and reflecting exactly what he was experiencing at that moment. Hartley wasn't done though. He kept pushing, bringing up Brown's cooperation agreement in Nevada. The defense tried to paint Brown as someone who might be sweet-talking the court, hoping to score a deal, but Orlando had a response ready. He made it crystal clear that if any of his statements turned out to be false, the entire cooperation deal would be off the table. With unwavering confidence, he told the jury, "I'm here to tell it straight, not to cut deals." After a brief recess, the tension in the courtroom escalated. Prosecutors then played the second voice memo, timestamped just after 3 a.m., sending a ripple of anticipation through the room. The courtroom atmosphere was tense as Brown's second voice memo played, this time detailing the corridor lights shifting to a dim red pulse. He described it as a running heartbeat, an eerie phrase that seemed to suggest something far darker than a simple lighting change. Brown went on to note that staff were guiding small groups through a set of mirrored doors, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding events. Just when things seemed to reach a boiling point, prosecutors threw a visual bombshell into the mix, a still shot from a motion-triggered camera placed in a nearby maintenance hallway. The image revealed a housekeeper pushing a cart marked "Refresh," with a timestamp that landed less than a minute after the radio chatter mentioned in Brown's recording. The defense quickly objected, claiming that this was just old information being recycled, but Judge Subramanian wasn't swayed. He ruled that the image could remain, stressing that multiple pieces of evidence were helping the jury make the necessary connections. Prosecutors weren't done yet. To solidify the authenticity of the recordings, they they called upon Dr. Maya Chen, a signal analysis expert, to testify. Chen explained that the background sound patterns, such as the hum of ventilation and faint music, were consistent across all 3 of Brown's memos. According to her, this level of consistency was proof that all the clips were recorded in the same wing of the estate. The defense tried to poke holes in her analysis, suggesting that similar audio patterns could have come from different hallways, but Chen held her ground, clarifying that while vent noise could repeat, the specific combination of echo, music bleed, and HVAC rhythm was unique to the estate's blueprints. Just when the defense seemed to catch its breath, prosecutors dropped another bomb. A voicemail left on Brown's second phone. Forensic testing confirmed the voice as a staff coordinator working under Gomez, who clearly said, "We'll have the heartbeat upgraded and ready." That's right, another reference to the mysterious heartbeat code. The defense fired back, calling it vague, but Judge Subramanian shut them down, reminding everyone that previous testimony had already clarified that heartbeat was used as internal jargon for lighting and surveillance adjustments. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, each new piece of evidence stacking up against the defense, pushing the case closer to its dramatic conclusion. During cross-examination, Hartley tried to flip the script, reading from a housekeeping guide that referred to the heartbeat glow as a fancy lighting feature, but prosecutors weren't letting it slide that easily. They quickly clarified that the guide only talks about a constant lighting setup, nothing like the manual overrides caught in the system logs. The court adjourned for the day, but not before prosecutors dropped a bombshell. They've got one final card to play. They're bringing in a records analyst to link suspicious payroll activity directly to the weekend that Orlando Brown's voice memos cover. Meanwhile, the defense is prepping a hospitality expert and an automation systems executive, both of whom are ready to argue that the lighting overrides and linen spikes are just the usual VIP treatment with no funny business. Judge Subramanian wasn't messing around. He told both sides to keep their closing arguments tight and on point, warning them that tech talk better be relevant to the case. No distractions, no fluff. As the trial sprints toward the finish line, the real battle is crystal clear. Brown's voice memos, the synced network logs, and rush order supply records are now at the heart of the prosecution's case. They say it all fits together too perfectly to be a coincidence, but the defense, they're doubling down, claiming it's all just the natural chaos of running a luxury estate, not some calculated plot. This trial, it's about to become one of the biggest in Hollywood history. Who knows how it'll play out? Will it last weeks? Oh, for sure. It's going to be a marathon. Now, it's up to the jury to decide which story holds water in this federal courtroom. Hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment below, and share this video with someone who needs to hear all the juicy details. And subscribe to Adam Gossip for more updates.